Pow, go.
I've never done anything like this before, so I'm not sure if I want to hold the mic and walk around or sit down. And wow, I can't see anything with these lights, but I guess that's cool. The story that I'm going to tell you, I guess in a way, has to do with finding inspiration in the most unlikely scenarios. And what I'm about to tell you, I've never said to anyone out loud, let alone on a stage in front of people that I may or may not even know. I'm an addict. And I'm not trying to make light of people that might have more serious addictions, but there really is no better way to say what I'm about to say, which is I'm addicted to breakfast. And that's the God's honest truth. From the moment I wake up in the morning, I open my eyes. Doesn't matter what time it is. It's usually the morning. But breakfast has got to be the first thing on my mind. And I start thinking about it. I start obsessing about it. And pretty soon, I start jonesing for it. And if I don't get my fix, like pretty soon, I actually physically get sick. I'll get nauseous. I'll get a headache. I'll feel faint. I'll get irritable. And sometimes that fix is something quick, you know, cinnamon bun, a freaking toaster strudel, a Danish, you know, a bowl of cereal. Well, actually a bowl of cereal might not be a quick fix for me. I have been known to house a whole box of Cocoa Pebbles in one sitting. I'll get me a big salad bowl, fill that whole box up in there, pour it, fill it with milk, and then I'll even open a box of them Entenmann's chocolate frosted donuts and go to town for dinner. Because breakfast could replace any meal or every meal. Sometimes it's my only meal. Sometimes my fix is healthy. Not too often, but you know, it could be a banana, a bowl of oatmeal, a bowl of fruit. But whenever I have a healthy breakfast, I like revert into some kind of hobbit because I go for second breakfast immediately after that. And second breakfast, just like any breakfast in my imagination, should be a big breakfast. And the big breakfast is, you know, the waffles, the pancakes, the crepes, the French toast, eggs, bacon, sausage, scrapple. Does anybody here even know what scrapple is? Yeah. For those of you that don't, I'll try to describe it. I think it's a Philadelphia thing. That's where I learned about it. My grandfather was from Philly. And it's like this compressed breakfast meat that comes in like a loaf in the frozen section of your grocer. And if you're not looking for it, you won't find it. It's down low, hiding beneath shit. I go on a mission to find this stuff. I grew up eating it at his house. I loved it so much, my mom would make it for me. I was like addicted to scrapple for the longest time. My grandfather told me that it was made out of lips and assholes. And to tell you the truth, it might be. But I was never deterred from eating it, and I still eat it to this day. So I think I made it pretty clear that I love breakfast. And I've got this whole like tier of places that I prefer to get my breakfast at. And at the very bottom is, you know, again, like a quick fix, 7-Eleven, your fast food chains, Burger King, McDonald's, you know, an Egg McMuffin or a Chris sandwich, you know, that'll come through for me in a pinch and make me feel better temporarily. The next level up for me, believe it or not, is gas stations. They've come a long way. I've got a gas station by my job called Espresso, and they got a full-on kitchen in there. And like they cook food to order, and it's pretty fucking amazing. And I only recently discovered Wawa's. I know people have been raving about those places forever. I've only been a few times, but I guarantee you I'm going back. They make a fucking great breakfast sandwich. Next up for me in my preferences would be like your chain places that are sit down, where you can really sit down and have some options. You know, your IHOPs, your Denny's, Cracker Barrel, Waffle House. I love all of those places. And what's great about them is a lot of them are open 24 hours. I can't tell you how many times a 3 or 4 a.m. breakfast saved my life. And probably yours too. You know what I'm talking about. And at the very top level of my preferences would be like your mom and pop places or diners. A lot of the places that I grew up eating at aren't around anymore, but some still are. Chuck Wagon for sure. If I'm up north, I'll still go to like Jimmy's Eastside Diner on Biscayne and like 70 something. The Stadium Diner out on 441 and 199. If I'm down south, I'll go to Walt's or Wagons West. And like you said, if I'm in my town, Chuck Wagon. You can never have too many Chuck Wagon specials and biscuits and gravy. But more importantly than all these breakfast places around here, my absolute favorite thing to do is to find these spots when I'm out traveling on a road trip. Go to some place I've never been before and get something I've never had before. I've had deep fried grits. I've had some shit called eggs cochon that was like an eggs benedict with pulled pork on top. I've had French toast made out of pound cake. Holy shit, that was fucking delicious. So it was the mid-90s, no, actually probably the late 90s, because I was working at Galloway Farm Nursery. It was a plant store on 87th Avenue in between Sunset and Kendall. I had been there for a few years, right across the street from Norman Brothers.
Ricky Mucho.
Which has a great breakfast quiche, by the way. And I was balls deep into this job. Like, I loved it, man. I loved everything about plants, learning about it. And in fact, I wanted to make it a career. So I took some classes through the University of Florida and the Dade County Corporate Extension Office. I became a certified master gardener. Then I went to Miami-Dade and took some landscape design classes. And I was like all set, this was gonna be my career. But my folks had recently moved to Tennessee. I come from a long line of Miami people. I'm 4th generation Miami. So it was kind of strange when my folks moved to Tennessee. Growing up, my dad was an air traffic controller. And in 1981, I don't know if you guys know this, the air traffic controllers went on strike. The president at the time, Ronald Reagan, stepped in and he pretty much said, everybody that's on strike is fired, you're blacklisted, you're never allowed to do this job ever again in the United States of America. So in the 90s, Bill Clinton lifted that ban and invited the air traffic controllers to reapply. And they got a chance to get their job back and get a retirement out of the deal. My dad applied. He got offered a job in Tennessee and, he took it. He's since retired now. But, excuse me. I decided to take a road trip to visit my parents. I took 2 weeks off of work and I planned this whole thing. I had some friends that I had to go visit up in like the panhandle of Florida. I had some friends out in LA. It's probably not the LA you're thinking of, that's what they called it. They lived in Lower Alabama. Yep, that's my joke. Anyways, then I went out to New Orleans, which is one of my favorite spots, the culture, the food, all that. It's just an amazing town, And then, I worked my way up to Tennessee to visit my folks. I went to Graceland. I got kicked out of Graceland for taking flash photography in Elvis's house. Then I made my way back. It doesn't matter what city or state I was in. I went to breakfast every single day, a lot of times alone. And the common denominator that I noticed in there was not the food at all. There were these dudes sitting in there, eating, laughing, talking, and they all had a uniform on, and it said Bell South. And I thought to myself, holy shit, I'm in the wrong fucking job. I need to get me a job where I can eat breakfast. So I actually came back to Miami with that in mind, not knowing shit about this. And I did some research and I found out, you have to pass some test called basic electricity. And then if you pass that, they'll consider you. I didn't know shit about electricity. I only knew about plants. I went down to Walden Books, which doesn't exist anymore. And I bought Walden Books. I bought a book called Basic Electricity. It was like as thick as a Bible. And I took about 3 weeks going through it, trying to memorize formulas, concepts, theories, all this shit. I scheduled a test. I went down, I took it, and I passed. I was like, yes. So they let me put in an application down at the main office off of it's the 600 building off of Flagler and the Palmetto. Fun fact, it used to be the 666 building, and for obvious reasons, they petitioned to have it changed, and it's been the 600 building for a long time. So I took this test, I passed it, and I put in an application with pen and paper. Back in those days, it was all pen and paper. And I asked the guy, hey, can I talk to somebody about this? And he said, nope, we're not hiring right now. We'll call you if we need you. And I was like, wow, man, this is like a big ass building for a big ass company. And this is just one piece of paper. Like, there's nobody I could talk to. He's like, nope. So I left there a little bit discouraged. And a couple weeks had gone by. And I was thinking to myself, did I really just put in a job application to a place because I wanted to eat breakfast? Fuck yes, I did. But I wasn't going to sell myself short. And I was going to find other men jobs that ate breakfast, and I was going to put applications out there. So I started thinking, who do I see? I see policemen at breakfast at the donut shop. But if you know me, you know that I could never be a cop. Who else? Firemen. I see a lot of firemen roll up. They look all cool. They jump out in a posse formation. Everybody's like, oh, the firemen are here. The firemen are here. And they sit down and eat breakfast. And sometimes they get up like on a call. I don't know if it's fake or real, but they dip out and they don't even pay. And I was like, whoa, fireman looks cool and promising. And to tell you the truth, if it was just about squirting water on a fire, I'm all about that. But that whole paramedic side of dealing with like trauma and blood and like craziness, that's not my bag. I'm like, bro, what other men? Garbage men? I don't really see them at breakfast, but I see county guys. That's probably a good job. So, I actually did put in an application for the county. Mailmen. I don't think I really seen mailmen at breakfast too much, and if I did, they were alone, but I got no problem eating solo breakfast. And if there's a way to get there, I'll find it, So I took the postal exam and I applied to be a mailman. So now I got all these applications out there, and I'm feeling good. And I'm not kidding when I tell you months went by, and not just a couple months, like 8, 9, 10 months. I hadn't heard shit from anybody. I almost forgot that I was applying. So I said, fuck it. I'm gonna go all in on this whole landscape nursery business. I mean, I've been here for 5, 6 years at the time. I got contacts, I know what I'm doing. I started checking into licensing and insurance, and the phone rings. They say, is this Brian Powell? I said, yes, it is. And they said, this is so-and-so from Atlanta. Are you still looking for a job with Bell South? I said, holy shit, I forgot about that. And in all reality, it was a split-second process in my mind, but really what I was doing is I was juggling entrepreneurship versus joining a big corporation, rolling the dice and gambling, like, can I make it on my own, or do I want to go somewhere that I think is safe? I took the job. And they hired me. I didn't know shit about the job, and they knew that I didn't know shit about the job, so they send you to school. Paid school, which is cool. But that first school is pole climbing school. It's about a week long. Actually, it is exactly a week long. And thank God it is not longer than a week, because that shit was like boot camp. And I'm telling you, by Friday, I could not walk. My legs were black and blue. I had blisters on my ankles and feet. My muscles were so sore. I mean, there were people on day 2 and day 3 that quit. A girl in my class on day 4, we were 18 feet in the air practicing maneuvers on these hooks, walking around poles. And she cut out and fell. And she tried to hug the pole on the way down. And it ripped her shirt. Like, there was like splinters in her breasts. She broke her ankle when she hit the ground. The ambulance took her away. I never even saw her again. So I passed pole climbing school. They sent me to installation school next. That was a few weeks. Learning how to install all of their products and services, take it from point A to B to C to D, doing all the outside work and all the inside work. No big deal, I learned it. And they sent me to troubleshooting school. That was another few weeks. Learn how to troubleshoot the problems, repair things, find out how to figure out where problems are and how to fix them. That was a couple weeks long. So now I kind of got a good idea of what I'm doing. and they send you to your work center to report for the first time. But they don't send you out alone yet. They want you to ride around with people. I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks that I rode with this dude GP. Old school guy, super cool. We became great friends. One thing they didn't teach us in this school was this computer that they gave us and the programs that you use on how to dispatch on a job, how to close a job, how to send your time and get paid, how to put in for vacation. So he told me, look, I'm gonna do the driving and I'm gonna talk a whole bunch of shit and you need to be a sponge and absorb it. I'm like, all right. He said, you operate the computer because I know they didn't teach you that in school, and knowledge is the key. With this computer, you can pull up so much information, you know, you can start analyzing things before you get out there. His whole thought process was work smart, not hard. I was like, all right, cool, I'm down. So we pop in his van first thing in the morning, and he says, hit that button that says dispatch. We picked up a job in Aventura at a condo called the Coronados. And he's like, oh, the Coronados, that was the first building ever built in Aventura. I put the wires in there and blah, blah. This guy knew everything about everything. And I'm just like a sponge listening to him, not paying attention, which I probably should have been, because Aventura, North Miami Beach, that whole area was foreign to me and I didn't know where I was going. So he's talking and talking and I'm just listening and listening, and all of a sudden he puts the van in park and I look up and we're like in a little strip mall and it says Moe's Deli. And I'm like, GP, what are we doing? He's like, bro, we can't start the day without breakfast. And I was like, holy shit, I fucking made it. Life goal achieved. Thank you guys, that was my story.